Welcome Under the Moon Gate, my secret garden to help you unlock your intuitive gifts and find the magic within. I'm Erin Bagwell, an intuitive medium, witch, and documentary filmmaker. I'm so happy to have you with me in the garden. Today on the podcast, I am so excited to welcome in the fall season. Fall is here. The leaves are dropping here in Buffalo, New York. It's feeling crisp. Kids are back to school and all of the things are happening. I am so grateful that I have had a little uptick in business. I've been doing mediumship readings, tarot readings, and it's been such a joyful process to meet so many of you. So thank you for booking your reading. It's been such a beautiful blessing and experience. I thought I would open today's episode by pulling a tarot card for us to see what Spirit wants us to know about the month of September ahead. Ooh, we got the moon. The moon is a card that has kind of these two feral wolves kind of at the foot and the base of the picture. It's separated by three different images. The top is the moon, which is quite literally looking down upon its subjects, its creatures, the wolves. And then we have the two wolves, and then we have this kind of murky lagoon, blue lagoon, where a little lobster kind of came out of the water. And I'll never forget this card because I was doing tarot for my cousin, as one does when we were visiting on vacation. And she goes, "Erin, what does the lobster mean?" And the lobster, I think, is the key to the moon card because it's actually a symbol of both our strength and our hardness, the shell of the lobster, but also kind of the tender vulnerability, the underbelly of the lobster, the softness. And so the moon offers us that duality of having that beautiful kind of water down below. And whenever I see water in the tarot, it always reminds me of kind of our ethereal divinity, that little murky place where you go in the spirit world where things are like a little loosey-goosey. It separates the earth realm, I think, from spirit. And the other thing that I love about the moon card is that it's a real unleashing. I love the idea of hear the wolves howling under this beautiful, big, bright moon. And the interesting thing about the moon card to me is it feels different from like the Empress and the way that the moon can sometimes be represented in tarot, and almost feels like a demand or a jurisdiction that has come through. It doesn't feel happenstance. And so if you were my client and you were sitting before me, I would say that something is coming in your life that's going to open you up, that's going to crack you open, that's going to make you howl like a wolf, but that it is coming from somewhere you can't control. It's part of your divine destiny that's being unfolded. And so that's what I'm offering us today as we step into this conversation with the Red Wizard and think about the ways in which our lives hold so much duality and cracking open. And something I love about Dave's story, who we affectionately call the Red Wizard, that he is a person who kind of puts his life together by looking for these really beautiful moments where you're howling at the moon. We start the podcast where he talks about his cracking open of his spiritual journey, and it's really informed the way he moves through the world. And I think to a certain extent, Dave's story is all of our story in the sense that we're just following these breadcrumbs, right? Every moment we feel connected or inspired, we feel like we're moving a little bit closer to our most divine self. And so I'm so honored to welcome Dave Meyers, the Red Wizard, to the podcast. He is a collage artist, he's an intuitive medium, and he's also teaching some non-duality on Instagram and YouTube. So you can follow him in the show notes below and learn more from Dave. All right. Thanks for joining me under the moon gate. How are you? How's your morning going?
Good, busy. Just dropped off the kids, so it's just how it is, getting everyone to where they need to go in the morning, and now I'm here. So
Tell me about your morning. Do you have a morning routine? Is it just chaos? I'm always so curious because I feel like it sets for me like such a foundation for the day. Like,
yeah, I we have I have a morning routine, I guess, which is like just putting everybody but myself first. So
Mm.
so I could get out, so we could get everyone out the door on time, you know?
Mm-hmm.
I'm not like my wife, like Michelle will, wake up way before me and she'll hit the gym and eat a healthy breakfast and all that first. But for
Yeah.
me, it's like that there is some kind of system there. I couldn't tell you what it is.
I feel like when I talk to spiritual folks, like their morning rituals and routines are so beautiful. And when you have kids, it becomes not that, right? It's like we have to
Yeah.
fit our spirituality in other places. I'm curious, do you have like a daily routine when it comes to like taking care of yourself or meditating, or is it just kind of it hits when it comes?
Funny you mention that. So before I had kids, my morning and evening routines were like important to me because that's what my mentor told me to do, right? You
Yeah.
get up, you meditate in the morning, maybe you take a cold shower, you do your yoga, but all of my practices now are just where I could fit them in. I like literally like meditate at my desk at work sometimes during lunch break. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Or I'll have like a 20-minute break and I'll just like visualize. I'll like lay down and just visualize when I can.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the best thing I've done for myself lately is just make myself exercise and eat right. I feel like
Mm.
that is of all like the woo-woo stuff I've learned, that's like the least woo-woo, but that's been like the most helpful for like my mental health and just being
Yeah.
plugged in and tradition that the spiritual tradition that I come from, so to speak. I got really lucky and I found a mentor. And he was like a yogi in the very traditional sense, where he was a monk, he was
Hmm.
celibate for a long time, vegetarian,
How'd you
right?
find him?
It's a cool story. Do you want to
Yeah,
hear it?
please.
I had moved to Miami, Florida, and I was like a fish out of water. I didn't really know anyone down there. Before I'd moved, I'd started practicing
Why were you in Florida?
chasing chasing an ex-girlfriend basically. Like
Okay, great.
my
Excellent.
college girlfriend was from there and we tried to make it work and it didn't work. So then
Got
I
it. Got it.
was so I'd started grad school down there, so I was like kind of stuck.
Yeah, yeah.
But it was Miami, Florida, and I was like in my 20s, so like
Sure,
I
great.
made the best out of it. So I'd started practicing like Sufism, which is like this kind of like.
Yes, I know Sufism. Mm-hmm.
And so I was like really learning to be like passionate and prayerful and trying to form this like kind of intimate relationship with God or the divine.
Can you describe, like, in one sentence, what Sufism is for people who are like, what does that mean?
It's like the mystical, poetic, like a branch of Islam, basically.
Hmm.
I think Rumi to this day is one of the most well like sold poets. Like his
Yeah.
books, like. And the way like Rumi and those mystics talk about love for God is like merging into the all, like merging with one, and they use metaphors like wine.
Mm.
Speaking of
Yeah.
which, right, we want to be drunk on the elixir of love,
Right.
for God and stuff like that.
And were you ra what religion were you originally raised in? I can't recall.
Catholic.
Catholic. Okay, okay.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be interrupting you every
Oh
five
no, please
seconds.
do, please do. And I ramble, so you're
No,
gonna
no,
have to
I like we're
learn.
getting all these little tidbits. Okay, so this is great. We're in Florida. We're doing our
In
MBA. We're
Florida.
chasing an ex-girlfriend.
Yes,
We're into Sufism.
I had my dog Reba with me, named after the fish song, and I'm sitting on Biscayne Bay. I'm like on the water, and I was looking up at the moon, and I said, God, when am I going to meet you?
Mm,
And trying to harness this like yearning that I would learn about and read about that you're supposed to have when you
yeah.
want to like, really connect. And I'm not sure if it was the next day, but like or definitely that week, went to a bagel shop and I was shooting the breeze with my server. Her name was McCall. And I asked her, I said, do you know any good yoga teachers around here? And she nearly dropped her plate. I didn't know, but she was a yoga teacher.
Hmm.
And her husband was a former monk with the Hare Krishna. and he was like a true like renunciate. Like he barely left his home. He sat there
Mm.
meditation, and he had students. So she like almost dropped her plate. She said, "Well, like my husband's the best."
Mm.
And we made arrangements, and then a few days after that, I met Yogeshwar, and so that's like the magical story where I'm like, I want to meet God. Then, like a few days later, I meet someone who to this day had more command over his mind and body than
Mm.
anyone I ever met. And I was literally kind of put in the hot seat because as I met him, we'd, love to teach you, but, so it might not be easy and stuff like that, and I couldn't understand. I was like, I thought I was going to put on some stretchy pants and like do yoga poses, but it wasn't that
Yeah.
kind of yoga at all. It was
Interesting.
the yoga of meditation. He
Mm.
taught me about bhakti yoga, karma yoga, jnana yoga. These are like the devotional practices that you see, the mystics do in India,
Cool.
was what he ended up teaching me. I went to Miami as this restless guy who just got out of college, trying to see if it would work with his girlfriend at the time,
Yeah.
and then just being completely transformed by his teachings. So.
I love kind of the serendipitous moments of, like you don't know why you're there and then you're there for the exact right reason. I was just listening to a podcast earlier that was basically described ourselves as like we fall asleep and we think we're in like this dark night of the soul because we don't know where we are, where we're going. And then we wake up and we're like, that was the best thing that's ever happened to me. And then we fall asleep again, and our lives are just like these constant repetitions of realizing that these uncertain, kind of tight, sticky, uncomfortable moments are really kind of where magic happens and transformation happens. But we have such deep resistance to them. I'm sure when you were there, it was so frustrating to be like, why am I here? What's going on? Where is God? I love that you actually
Sure.
asked the question, invited it in. Where are you?
Uh-huh. And then you get what you want. And then I'm like
Mm.
sitting with this old guy. I'm like, I'm in Miami, Florida. Why am I sitting with this old guy who's telling me to like
You
take it
should be at the
easy, not drink?
club.
Yeah, yeah. Like I don't want this, right? Like I asked for this, but I don't want this.
Yeah,
I feel like that process is endless. That I feel like I'm still in that process that you're talking about right now.
completely.
You
I
know?
want to weave in your creative work and the
Sure.
Red Wizard and kind of that your whole thing because as we're looking, the audience can look on Instagram when I post a clip, but your office is so gorgeous. Your creative mind, your pieces are so intricate and spiritual and
Mhm.
I don't know, you're such an artistic talent. Can you tell us how like that has woven into spirituality, where it found you, the Red Wizard, like all that stuff?
Sure, absolutely. The main thing that I make are collages. I have some. There's like this
I
one
have
of
one
my
right
favorites.
behind me
Yeah,
here.
you got
I
one there
do.
too.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's a few different things, but I think ultimately when I first started making these collages was I was trying to like solve or investigate these philosophical or like spiritual questions that I had
Okay.
about what matter is, like very literally, like what rocks are, what plants are, what consciousness is, how do they like relate to one another?
Hmm.
And what I learned from that was so I literally have hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of old books and magazines, and I became drawn to like science books and dinosaur books and fossil books and books about space. And I was very serious about it and disciplined, and I spent probably better almost like 4 years doing it every day.
Mm.
And I think one of the more profound realizations I realized was like that mankind, womankind does not create anything.
Mm.
We are rearrangers,
Okay.
right? So like here I am basically cutting up images of inventions and science and discovery and outer space, and I'm mixing all these things together. And in my own funny way, I'm not drawing or painting anything from scratch. I'm
Hmm.
assembling stuff that already exists because I'm cutting up photographs and drawings.
Yeah.
And I realized that, like, we're always told in like science that matter is neither created nor destroyed,
Hmm.
right? And so when we say that we're creating stuff, we're really just rearranging stuff.
Mm.
And we're rearranging things to almost like reflect on it deeper and like reveal more power or more truth from those things. An example like a hammer, if I construct a hammer, I'm not creating anything. I'm taking wood and iron,
Hmm.
and because I've done that, I'm revealing the power of my arm with like the hammer strike.
Yeah.
And a computer, I know I'm going out there right now.
No, I like it.
And a maybe much more refined creation would be like a computer. So I'm not inventing silicone. I'm not creating like metal or plastic. But when we rearrange these things, we're showing how the universe can compute.
It's
So
almost like building is the word that comes to my mind,
yeah,
you know,
we're
very
builders
sensible in a way.
builders and rearrangers. So
Yeah.
we're creative, but in like I guess in a hyper literal sense, we're just rearranging stuff that already exists. So anything we make just reveals the universe more.
Hmm.
We're not like adding to the universe, we're like revealing its powers.
I always think that the creative process is really co-creative too, in the sense that I feel like whether you're a writer or, a musician or you're doing collage art, like you're also channeling a lot, where you're
Mm,
opening yourself up to kind of receive information. Do you have any
sure.
thoughts about kind of channeling in art?
Yeah, totally. I think my creative process from ever since I was little was just start making and see what happens.
Mm.
And I am continually frustrated that I seemingly have the inability to say, like, I want to make this and sit down and go through all of the things and like have
I
be
see.
what
So yours is less planned. It's more like
yeah.
you're just seeing what comes through.
There's almost no plan at
That's
all.
such a pure form of creation, though. But it's frustrating
Sure.
because you want to have
Yeah,
structure.
sometimes I get my ego involved and I want to make like something really like I have an idea of how I want it to be, and then
Hmm.
it's just I guess not really how I can do it,
Yeah.
because I've hit the wall a lot of times, and maybe this is what you were talking about with like what I think is this struggle between effort and like surrender almost, or like
Hmm.
effort and what the universe ends up giving you. So yeah, I just kind of sit down and see what happens, you
Well,
know.
something that I've been really trying to sit with and understand conceptually is about manifestation and the way that we put human constraints on what comes through. So
Mm,
to your point, it's like we sit down and we want to make something or we want to do something instead of being like, I'll take $1 million however it comes. In my mind, I go, well, I want to make this much money off the blog and I want to sell my book. And I put all my constraints on it that weighs the idea down instead
yes.
of surrendering, as you said, and saying, I'll take it however it comes. I did this the other day where I said, I did a spell or I lit a candle. I said some kind of money intention. And I did exactly this. I said I want to make some money unexpectedly. I'll
Yeah.
receive it however it comes.
Mhm.
And then like a week later, I got an email from a bot that was like, "We want to buy this old domain website from you for $700." Which was
Nice.
no money, no effort on my part.
Yeah.
I signed a contract and I got the money and I was like, "Wow." So
Uh-huh.
once we
Great.
start like releasing how it comes, because ultimately, like, we're going to be pushed into alignment. We're going to be pushed into our destiny. We're going to find the guru in Florida, but we might not know the whole blueprint. We're asleep.
Sure. Yeah, 100%. Yeah. And I think that's the power of stuff that comes from spirit too. It's because like it's powerful because it's beyond us.
Mm,
Right? It's like it's seemingly like outside of us, right? Like here you go, $700 in a way that you would have never dreamed of that you could just make quick money like that, right?
yeah.
I think we kind of blind ourselves sometimes when we like think we have to like zero in on something, and then we lose everything in the periphery,
Yeah. We're
you know.
too clinging to an outcome,
Yes.
clinging to a plan.
That's how I met Michelle,
Ooh, tell me.
my wife. So, um, it was Bob Marley's birthday. I like I can't remember how old I was. I was probably like 26 or something. And I knew I was we were going to celebrate Bob Marley's birthday with friends. It was at like Nietzsche's in Allentown. And they were going to have like a cover band. So I caught myself going through the same ritual. The bro in me was like getting ready, getting
Mm,
dressed, looking in the
okay,
mirror.
yeah, yeah.
And I looked at myself and I was like, Dave, this has never worked for you. You've never once like gone out to the bar and
Mm,
like even had like a fling or met a girlfriend. Like
yeah, yeah,
it
yeah.
doesn't work, you know?
We need to
So
switch the energy up.
I was like, yeah, I'm like, okay, I give up. Like I'm just not gonna try like whatsoever. And that night I was just in the zone, like listening to Bob Marley music at the bar
Having
and
fun.
having fun. And then Michelle ended up coming over and like and we connected. And so like that's a really good example of literally like the evening I gave up trying
Mm-hmm. The
something.
surrender of it all.
Yeah. But I'm still terrible at surrendering. So
I think we all are. I think it's one of
yeah.
those like, huge major arcana things that we're all dealing with. I also do want to give a shout out to Michelle because I went to elementary school with her
Mhm.
and she was very close with another family kind of in our cohort. And because she was a year older and we also went to high school together, I just remember being like, oh God, there's Michelle. Like she's such an icon, because I was such a young girl and just like watching her grow up and she's so
Older kid.
beautiful and wonderful
Yeah.
and like smart and
Yeah.
so she'll always hold like a special place
Oh, thank
in my psyche. So you can pass that on to her. While we're talking about relationships,
you.
and we can go as light or as deep as you want, but I'm always curious, and I will share from my end, my husband and he's watched me kind of develop into this medium, into this intuitive, bring my psychic energy to the house. Sometimes it's really helpful and he'll be like, I'm in this, thing at work. Can we pull some cards? And, we'll talk through things. He's very psychic, although I don't know if he would use that word. And then there's definitely other times where like him and my mom will be whispering about something that I've done or, something that has happened. And it's a real interesting thing to watch your partner kind of step into this new kind of world. Do you have any
Sure.
thoughts or
Mhm. Yeah.
things you want to share
Um,
about that?
I think this is how I put it to other people is like ultimately as mediums or sensitives or even artists, like we are getting more information sometimes,
Mm-hmm.
right? We're literally like experiencing, absorbing, we're just getting more info. And with our partners and in our busy lives, sometimes the last thing our partners want is more information. You know what I mean? Because it's just like
Sure, sure,
more to deal
sure.
with. Like we all have,
Yeah.
like my brother-in-law introduced me to like just the concept of mental bandwidth,
Yeah.
right? Like we only have a certain amount of bandwidth that, we don't want to blow our light bulb out by getting
Mm-hmm.
too involved, too excited about certain things. I have many projects, I have many hobbies, I have many interests, and I always want to go, go, go 100%. And what I found with having a partner is like the most important thing we could do as psychics, as mediums, as partners is just help our partners in the most practical sense that we can
Mm.
and just like save them sometimes from the extra bandwidth that we would have even if we weren't, medium.
Sure, sure.
You know what I
I
mean?
will say, sometimes I will ask Sal, I'll say, like, do you want to hear a weird story? Like, do you want to hear about a dragon today? Like, do you want to hear, like, and he could say no. And he could be like, no, Aaron, no, I'm not
Yeah,
interested. And then
sure.
sometimes he's like, yeah, tell me about something
Yes.
weird.
Yeah, we're
So
very
it's,
similar in that way. Yes. Yeah. I learned not to share crazy stories first thing in the morning when we're like brushing our teeth together. But to hear about this crazy dream I had, it's like, no, I don't. It's fine, you know.
I love that. Tell me about the Red Wizard. Where did this name come from? That's kind of the
Sure.
pen name and the username that you've kind of adapted, your
Yeah.
pseudonym. Tell us about it.
So early in my collage career, if you could call it that, I made a wine label for my friend who has a winery, and we wanted a Bon Appetit magazine. And it was cool. Yeah, the label did, the wine, the
Cool.
the foodie influencers loved it. But my name is David Meyers, And even though it's a common name, Myers is often spelled wrong. So the wine bottle had my name spelled wrong on it. And then if I used to have to say my middle name at the bank. So basically I had this like published work. It was spelled wrong. Nobody could find me.
Yeah.
So I decided I had to come up with a name. And at the time, Game of Thrones was huge.
Sure, sure.
And this is kind of bad, but I love the character of the Red Woman. Do you remember the Red
Yeah,
Woman?
yeah, yeah.
Like the vine and the flames, and
Yeah.
like so I was this collage artist, and I would always joke that I would be sacrificing books to like
Mm.
make my work. So
Yeah.
and I have red hair, so that's where it came from. And then as soon as I gave that name and I put it on Instagram, I got this random DM from this tattoo artist from like Seattle or Oregon. And he said, "Hey, be careful. If you call yourself a wizard, you might just become one."
Mm.
And I was like, "Okay, bro."
And look
And
at you
I don't know what
now.
happened. He might have been right. He might have been right.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's the origin story.
We actually met at Lilydale.
We did.
Yes, we met at an intuitive, I think it was a mediumship like 101 class. And I think we were the only two from Buffalo. Is that?
I
And I
believe
was like, we got to connect because I don't have enough weirdo friends in Buffalo to like
same,
get
yeah.
coffee with. Will you describe what Lilydale is like for people? I'm constantly trying to convert people to go and experience
Yeah.
it and attend a workshop. Can you describe like what it was like to walk through the gates and be kind of part of that little community?
Sure. Well, I've been to Lilydale twice, and it's hard to describe, and maybe that's why you're asking me, because it's like you're going into this little village where you would, visit your uncle or your grandma, and they have this like little like lake house or something.
Hmm.
But then a pair of Tibetan monks will drive by in a golf cart.
Yeah.
You know, I think the coolest thing for me is there are people that come from all over the country to this village with, an abundance of wind chimes and garden gnomes and but they come to learn. Like they
Mm,
come to learn like sincerely. And there are people like us who maybe discovered that they had a gift and they're trying to learn from other people that have gifts. There definitely seems to be some kind of power there, for
mm,
lack of a better term. I don't know what it is. I don't know. All I do know is when you have a room full of 20 developing mediums and they're all in a room, like it's
hmm.
powerful.
Yeah.
It always feels like every time I go there, when I leave, before I leave, it's almost like a support group.
Mm,
Like you and I connected. I want a weirdo friend too,
yeah.
from Buffalo. Or people invite you to their Facebook group or their chat to encourage one another.
I think it's rare to be in a space where so many people believe. And I think when you're at Lilydale, you're opening your heart in a different way. And it almost, I have a theory that to your point, like when you get people in a room together, it raises the frequency and the vibration, and all of a sudden you're accessing different parts of yourself and opening up different parts of yourself, and you're stronger, you're more powerful when you're in
Mhm.
those spaces. I feel like the Omega Center has a little bit of that too, of just kind of people wanting and believing, and that giving that the foundation to then kind of access greater heights.
I mean, I believe that because of my own like quest here, it's taken me a while. It's taken me like a year. Like I met you last summer and we
Hmm.
had coffee. It I know it took me a while to even say like I can do this,
Yeah.
I'm a medium, and kind of like come out of the closet about it. And your podcast really helped with that. So much. Thank you for helping release me, in that way. There's definitely something going on with that group energy because I remember sitting down in that class we were together. It was
Hmm.
my first time reading for a stranger, and it was like I closed my eyes and it was like boom,
Yeah.
so vivid and like
Cool.
direct and there. And the first question I asked the sitter, I was like, I see people sitting on a porch, like on rocking chairs. She said, "Yes, absolutely. That's my
Hmm.
grandpa, whatever." And the first thing I did was I opened my eyes and I just said, "Holy shit." Like this is real. Like this is what's happening. So yeah, I encourage anyone to go to Lilydale and take your time and
Mm.
put your phone away for the day and just yeah.
When you started kind of acknowledging your abilities or gifts, was there like a big shakeup in your brain as far as like beliefs and unbeliefs? Like, I remember just feeling like, oh my God, am I going crazy? Like, is the world as I know it a different color? Like, is all of a sudden the sky green and I just never noticed it before? Did you have that feeling of,
Yeah.
where am I?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Like the first time it really happened, like literally felt ill.
Mm,
I've heard Matt Aarons say that like when you kind of unlock magical power, so to speak, it's almost like you get the flu. And I didn't know that at the time. So
interesting.
I went home after work and I laid on my bed. Next thing I knew, I was getting this like 45-minute long ancestral download. Like I was speaking
Mm,
my maternal grandmother. I was
mm-hmm.
like a little kid sitting on a blue carpet in her family room.
Yeah.
She was like showing me objects in the house and telling me to stick up for myself. My grandfather came through. So that was the first one. And I never believed in mediums for as much as is like when you and I grew up, there would be those Miss Cleo commercials where it was like the psychic hotline after you were watching Jerry Springer
I
and
think,
like
Dave, I think we got to do some kind of, I don't know, we got to rewrite the way that we view, like even the fortune teller and Robin Hood, like the idea of like being in touch with your intuition and it being a scam is so like those go hand in
wow,
hand in culture
it's a
in
good point.
such an intense way.
Yeah.
We got to figure out visually how to release that
Oh yeah,
from
yeah. Oh,
people
it's
just
great.
feeling unsafe around anything spiritual in that department.
Oh, I know that you're trying to, I've heard you say you're trying to reclaim the word witch, right? You're
Yes,
trying,
yeah.
yeah. I would love to do that with wizard, you know what I mean? Even just the word psychic, like
Yeah,
because even like psychic is another, like Miss Cleo, it's like this,
right. Well, I don't
um,
know if you follow kind of Jake Barber and all of the disclosure stuff, if you're kind of familiar with him at all, but he's really in touch with UAP and UFO energy. And one of the things that drives me and Eleanor crazy is instead of saying that he works with psychics to channel and call them in, he calls them psionic assets because it sounds like a government program. And and
it's
and
very science
and
fiction.
it's
Yeah.
like, okay, he has a military background, like I get it, but he's erasing like this entire lineage of spiritual knowledge, by renaming it. And
Yeah.
it's a bummer.
It is a funny thing. That is a bummer. And like one thing I think is almost always necessary. I don't, what did you say they're called? Psionic assets?
It sounds like a bomb, doesn't it? Like a
Yeah, it
weapon.
sounds like you need to wear a helmet this
Yeah.
big, like
They're gonna drop you in
something out
like
of
a
a
chamber
silicon dick.
and yeah, it's ridiculous.
Have you ever seen the movie Minority Report with Tom Cruise?
I feel like maybe a million years ago.
They take three psychics and they drug them so they like can't move, and
Mm.
they hook them up to a supercomputer so they could predict murders in the future. And then Tom Cruise has to like arrest the people before the murders happen.
Got it, got it.
And that sounds like a psionic asset to me, where you're like,
Yeah.
you
Have
know,
you
just
ever done any of the criminal investigation classes at Lilydale?
no, I haven't. But I did want to share one thought, like changing names for like a modern
Yeah, yeah,
audience.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
Because that's something I struggle with every day. Like right now I'm making YouTube videos trying to teach people about non-duality.
Yeah.
And like every single video I make, when I say consciousness, what the
Mm-hmm.
hell does that mean? When I say spirit, what the hell does that mean? When I say
Yeah.
God, what the hell does that mean? And then each of these words, we tie all this bullshit Sunday school stuff to.
Mm-hmm.
Like a lot of those terms were ruined for me, especially being a non-believer for a long time. Like I
Yeah.
cringe when I hear the word God or Jesus sometimes. I
Mm-hmm.
love those things, those concepts, those
Right.
saints. I remember Terence McKenna, who called himself a psychonaut. He was a huge influence on psilocybin ayahuasca thing. This is like early 90s before anyone was talking about it. He would use this phrase that certain words have polluted the well of language.
Mm,
So like
interesting.
I would love to take back the term psychic and put a pin, whatever you said about, you said we take being connected to our intuition as like a scam. Is that what you said?
We associate it that that it's fake and that it's false, really.
Yeah.
And I
I,
think that's a really interesting concept culturally because it's like, yeah, they don't want us to know. Like, people don't want us to be connected to our intuition. Modern religion wants you to have to go to a big church to get the answers. Like,
yeah.
it makes a lot of sense why people would be like, oh, don't trust those, don't trust the witches in the woods. It's kind of like the burning times all over
Oh
again.
yeah. We're all victims of this colonization, so to speak, you know. Uh,
Definitely.
okay.
This is the part of the show where I ask if there's anything like spiritual or woo-woo that you want to unpack. Any weird stories or dreams or instances that you need to debrief with another medium.
The first thing that comes to mind is we were talking about how when I realized I was a medium, did things feel like kind of crazy or whatever. And long story short was I didn't know how to turn it off. And that's one of the
Mm.
reasons why I wanted to go to Lilydale and was I didn't know how to turn it off. And the one thing that's been baking my noodle is when I realized that like mind and consciousness are separate,
Mm-hmm.
that when we're as a medium, we're picking up on people
Mm-hmm.
and things that sometimes don't seem that are not human, entities in consciousness that don't have physical bodies. That's the
That
big
aren't in
thing.
the earth realm, you mean? Or like that you feel in other dimensions?
Yeah, and yeah, and I think it's like all one dimension, but it's like a spectrum of the rainbow, right? Like you
Sure.
have Roy G. Biv,
Yeah, yeah.
and we're in the middle in
You
green.
mean that,
You know,
so you're meaning that like they don't have like earth bodies, like human
yeah, they don't have
bodies.
Earth bodies,
Okay,
right?
okay. Like a
The
dragon.
Yeah, or like the hipster in me like would never call it a fairy, but I've seen stuff that like
Sure, sure.
resemble fairies. And the Old Testament and the Quran, they talk about beings that are made of smokeless fire, and they're called jinn.
Mm,
Genie is the like the cartoonish like Disney version,
yeah.
but jinn are like this whole class of beings that are made of smokeless fire. And so
Mm,
like when I saw what I think other people would call a fairy or what they've been called in the past,
yeah.
like these beings that are made out of like an incomprehensible amount of like infinite gemstones. Like, what the
Mm.
hell even is that? These little tricksters, you know? So I'm glad you asked, and I did not articulate that question or comment well at all, but I think, yeah, let's chat for a second about like beings that don't have earth bodies that
Mm-hmm.
like intersect with our reality sometimes. Like,
Yeah, so I mean, one of the things that I really like about elementals, which are like your fairies and your gnomes and kind of like
okay.
your more woodland spirits, is that they actually can interact with the earth and they can come through Earthside. So the myth is that like however long ago that we shared the earth together. And that once humans started polluting the earth and, being maniacs and going to war, that they veiled themselves, but that we actually all share the same space. And so,
Uh-huh.
something that I love about fairies is like when you go to places like Lilydale, people will have physical fairy encounters. So they'll see them or they'll feel them. And so the veil is really thin on them, which is kind of exciting because I always think it's exciting when like we have these spiritual things kind of come earthside.
Yeah.
But I've certainly also encountered beings like the Pegasus, mostly like creatures or animals in the spirit world who kind of just exist there. Is there anything like that you're curious about, or you're just kind of like pondering over like the vast beings that are out there?
Yeah, I would love to hear more about the elementals and the fairies because I know when I first wanted to learn and to turn it off, because that was the one where I was like, guys, I'm trying to go to sleep. And they kept like bothering me.
Yeah, yeah.
They weren't listening. I was like, this is messed up, you know? Like, um, so I went to this like spirituality, like witchcraft store. And I told the lady at the front desk, like, or I'm like, this is what's happening to me.
I love the image of this. Like it's like a TV show where you're
Yeah,
like, this thing happens to you in the middle of the night. You're like, where do I go? Let me go to the mall and like find the spiritual store and like see if any of these weirdos like will give me an answer.
exactly. And she was, not only did she not think I was crazy, she was not
Hmm.
impressed at all. She was
She's like,
like, look, we
whatever.
got, there's a bunch of fairy books over there. We got the fairy tarot card deck.
Yeah.
Like, oh. And she's like, yeah, you're not the only one. Like, well, go look over there. And I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Like, I'm glad I'm not crazy, but like, this is just something that people experience. It's wild.
Yeah. I mean, let me tune in a little bit here.
Ask the fairies, why do they look like infinite Christmas ornament acrobats?
So, something that I recently learned is that, diamonds and jewels are very prevalent on other planets.
Mm,
So we look at a diamond and these resources as being like precious or scarce, and they're not in other planets. Wood is actually one of our most sacred resources on Earth. But I wonder if you were interacting with a celestial or like a galactical being.
mm.
It doesn't feel fey to me.
Oh, right.
Like in the way that like it was small and it moved and it was mischievous. I think that feels right.
Yeah,
But the diamonds
interesting.
and you didn't feel or see the wings, right? They were just kind of hovering and
They
moving.
were like these sprites. They would dash like fire, like almost like little Roman candles. And then when they would stop briefly, I could
Hmm.
catch a look. It was like their whole body was sequined. And when I would try to get really peer into like their sequined, it
Hmm.
was like I would look inside of this like infinite geode. So
Mm.
her whole body was bright ruby, and
Hmm.
her head was not there's almost this like bone or like white ivory color that would come to this point.
Hmm.
And I would be like, all right, I can see you now. And then I would like peer closer. And then that's when it would be like this infinite gemstone thing. Like I said, it was like kind of incomprehensible,
Yeah, it's
Interesting.
giving me it's giving me like UAP UFO kind of.
Hmm.
Although it could be like a totally different kind of being too. I think fairy is makes sense where your brain would go there, but I'm not sure. What I will say is that I don't believe in like the coincidence of it, and it felt like an activation,
Mm.
where they wanted to like wake you up and show themselves to you and get you on a path and kind of remind you who you are. I always think too that when things come through that strongly, it has something to do with your like Akashic records.
Hmm.
Have you ever dabbled in that at all?
I haven't. And I want to learn more about that. But that would make sense because why, like I told you, the first stuff was my grandparents. Like, why would they come too?
I think when you open yourself up in the beginning, you have, or this was my experience, you have like a familial guardian that's with you then on your spirit journey that kind of helps protect you a little bit.
Uh-huh.
Because I think to your point of not having boundaries or not saying, like, hey guys, like, leave me alone, or not knowing how to say that, or not like, throwing a protection bubble around yourself, or like when I go to bed, I throw like a dragon around me. We invite beings to come through. And when we're like open and sensitive and vulnerable in the beginning, it's very easy for things to kind of just mess with us or for
Sure.
us to be led down paths that aren't necessarily for our best and highest good because we're just following whatever the whim is, right? We're just so excited we're
Yeah.
getting a message. So I
Sure.
think in the beginning, this is just coming through for the audience that it's important to kind of set up your boundaries and your protection and your discernment that you are still in control of your life. You don't
Absolutely.
have to burn it all down or even wear what they want you to wear or go where they want you to go. Like you still have 1,000% control, and it's really important to not get lost in that.
Absolutely. So from my like yoga tradition, the teachers often like they kind of give like caution to what they call the siddhis, which are like kind of like the signs and the stuff as you're kind of gaining magical power, not to just get super excited about these, chase them, look for them.
Mm.
You know what I mean? Like I think we've all met people who, like in my opinion, get like way too into angel numbers and they're like looking at their phone and the clock and
Hmm. Hmm.
they're constantly like grasping for signs and stuff like that. and
Yeah.
then you drive yourself crazy. So even when this stuff was like happening to me, I was lucky in that I was grounded in the stuff that my teachers taught me, which is like, hey, this is cool, but this isn't necessarily like who I am. You know what I mean?
Mm,
I don't have to like run off and do stuff.
what a
So I was
blessing.
always like like I was always like a little cautious about it. And in a way, maybe overly so, where I did not intend to pursue it like at all.
Mm.
Yogeshwar passed away, but I even called my friend McCall, who is like, she's a completely realized being. And I was like, I could talk to my ancestors and this is happening to me and stuff like that. And she said, that's wonderful, but that's not who you are.
Mm. Wow, what a gift.
You know what I mean? Yeah. Yeah. She's
I,
like, your spirit, your consciousness, like your God, like this
yeah.
secondary stuff. So,
How beautiful. What a great like reminder. I
yeah.
often think I've been thinking a lot about like the coming out of the broom closet or sharing about your abilities and how my friend Dominic from the Fixing Famous People podcast, he said like he came out later in life and he had to like wear chaps and like, be this really queer, flamboyant, the whole thing and pride, covered in rainbows. And then, as you kind of learn about yourself, you kind of let that stuff go a little bit and you figure out who you really are. And I think the spiritual awakening can be very similar where I didn't didn't have that particular grounding and would like, go to networking events and be like, I can talk to dead people, just like throwing it at people and being
Yeah.
too overly excited and too, until we figure out that balance of, okay, like, okay,
Sure.
how do we integrate it? Like, how do we
Yeah.
make it
Remain
not
ourselves.
part of our identity?
But so having said that, can we dig in for a second? Because I want to ask you a question about this kind of UAP
Yeah, please.
thing that I experienced.
Yeah.
So one thing I get caught up on is like, how do I address something? Like, if, okay, so let's say I want to start experimenting and chatting with
Galactical
this
energy.
galactical energy, this being that I experienced a couple years ago. I made a
Yeah.
little painting of her, like,
Yeah.
how do I go about chatting with that energy?
So, what I would say anytime you open yourself up to channel or talk to anybody, I call it like your mantra or your prayer. You need to have something that establishes your boundaries of who you're connecting with. So, the thing that I always say is like, I'm only connecting with beings for my best and highest good, grounded in love. I like to use earth energy also, that are interested in my highest frequency and elevation. This is
Sure.
like a mosh podge. It can be kind of whatever feels good to you. And
Uh-huh.
then I would sit in meditation, and Kara Daniels has a really beautiful Meet Your Star family meditation that's 10 minutes. I would do that specifically because she's leading you through the meditation of meeting galactical energy. But
Okay.
you could also just, throw on your favorite meditation music or be at your desk, whatever's comfortable, and then just see what comes through. And we talked about this kind of when I got the beautiful tour of your studio, but I think you have a lot of galactical swirling around you.
Sweet.
And I think, I mean, you're manifesting it in
Uh,
such crazy ways, you have like a whole spaceship in your basement,
I
essentially,
really do. Yes.
so it doesn't, it's like coming through, I feel like. And I don't know, I almost feel like it's like a welcome, like she was welcoming you in a way to
Cool.
reconnect with that energy.
I would love to.
Yeah, so go down deep, get into however you channel or, light your candles and see what comes through and then, automatic write or draw or see what happens.
I gotta do that automatic drawing, dude.
What I'll do is kind of like when I have my actual morning routine, if it ever happens, is, I like to listen to like some music to kind of like set the vibe. I light a candle. I'll do a meditation. And then when I come out of the meditation, usually I'll write a question or ask something of spirit that I want to know, but sometimes I won't. And then when I come out of the meditation, I just free write as long as I want, as long as I can. And I am shocked at the wackadoo stuff that comes through.
Sure.
And the voices, it's really, really interesting. And it's become kind of a beautiful practice because it's always so like loving and grounding and reassuring and
But I mean,
supportive.
if rewriting, does the voice feel like it's not yours sometimes?
Correct. Yes. Most of the time.
Or you're getting an inner voice that feels like it's other than.
Yeah, I feel like often sometimes I can tell where I'm channeling it from,
Hmm.
and sometimes I can't. Sometimes, very rarely, I've had galactical energy come through and have specific messages, but I definitely recommend channeling with alongside your meditation because
Okay.
it's such an active, fun, informative process, you know? I mean, we can get a
Yeah.
lot out of our meditation and the messages and stuff, but I don't know if it's because I'm just a Taurus and I need something concrete. The act of writing it feels so validating
Oh yeah. Yeah.
and you get some really interesting things come through. So I would absolutely recommend practicing with that or even drawing or whatever feels right.
I feel like in a sense, even when we're just doing our own journaling, writing makes it real, kind of, you know.
Mm-hmm.
You have thoughts swirling around and you when you write it down, it's like, oh, here it is. And it's like there's a clarity in just doing it. So I could see how writing after a channel or meditation would be like super helpful.
I have one more question for you.
Sure.
I always ask all of my guests, what is your gift?
I think the gift that I was given was ultimately my biggest challenge.
Mm,
I was adopted at birth and I didn't know that I was doing this, but my whole life I was wondering where I came from.
mm,
And somehow through grace, I wasn't so much concerned with the specific parents that I came from. I became very much interested in where we all came from. Where did all of this come from?
right.
So baked into the very like meta, my very being was wanting to know where do we come from?
Mm,
And that, I guess, was the secret gift helped me put the pressure on me to, I didn't know I was doing this, but like pierce every moment and try to find connection
mm,
with people, with spirit. I didn't know I was doing this, but my whole life, every time would meet a new person, I would look at them in the eyes and wonder if I was related
oh, wow.
biologically, because I there was a chance,
Right.
you know,
What a
and
beautiful way to walk through the world. Are
intense,
we related?
intense.
It's very beautiful, though. Intense, yes, of
Yeah,
course.
and the day that I met my biological mother, it was over the phone. I was in a Wegmans. It was in a Wegmans parking lot. I was on the phone with her, and we probably chatted for like an hour.
Hmm.
And I was waiting to go in to get groceries. I didn't know I was gonna get the phone call. But like I went into Wegmans, and needless to say, Wegmans is a super busy grocery store. So I just found out who my biological mother was, and I'm like pushing my cart through. And I see in my periphery someone's walking towards me, and I look up and I look to see if they're possibly related. And I realized right then that's what I'd been doing my whole life.
Mm,
I didn't need to do that anymore.
wow.
And so that was like all of this, after that, all this energy opened up, all this mental effort that I'd been putting
Mm.
towards just like went away. So, God knows how much energy I was burning doing that every day. So, yeah, that's my gift.
What a beautiful story. Thank you so much for sharing.
You got it.
I thank you for coming under the moon gate. What a wonderful conversation we've had. I feel like so many wonderful nuggets. I have so many like notes to give the listeners about where to go. Where can people find you? How do you want them to support you?
Sure. So, I'm been doing a lot of work on my YouTube channel. If you look up Red Wizard Collage or redwizardcollage.com, you could find all my stuff on there. I also am offering completely free classes on the methods that my mentor, Yogeshwar, some of that stuff that he taught me. If you go to realpeacenow.net, you could get all of the free videos there
Cool.
where I teach a meditation technique. Well, I just changed my Instagram handle. Hold on, let me tell you what it is. The Red Wizard. Okay, that's easy enough. Yeah. So Red Wizard Collage or the Red Wizard and realpeacenow.net. And just say hi. I want more weirdo friends like Aaron. So
Just
as you
say hi. I love it. Dave, thank you so much. This was wonderful.
Thank you so much. And your podcast like really, really helped me so much. Hearing you with your encouraging words and sharing your truth, like really helped me so much. So, and I'm so happy to participate. So, thank you.
Yeah, I'm glad we got to connect and I'm glad it resonated.
Hell yeah.
It's all we want as artists for the work to hit somebody and them go, oh
Yes,
yeah, that's a thing.
exactly.
Thank you, Dave. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much, Aaron.
Under the Moongate is produced and hosted by me, Erin Bagwell, with music by Sal Mastrocola. To get monthly magic lessons, replays of my workshops, and tickets to live reading events, join me as a paid Substack subscriber by clicking the link in the show notes or visiting underthemoongate.substack.com. To book your own private reading with me, visit my website, erin-bagwell.com. And help me pass the magic along. Rate, review, subscribe, and share this episode with a friend. If you want to reach me, you can email me at thebuffalomedium@gmail.com. Thanks so much for listening. Under the moon gate, Mama goes under the moon gate with the moon. Under the moon gate, Mama goes under and she wears her pink sparkly dress along the way. Did he take a video? Can I see?